This is the brand new AlphaTheta DJM-V5 mixer, a 3-channel, essentially cut down version of their popular V10 mixer, made for DJs who play techno, who like to layer music, who like to incorporate drum machines and effects and synthesizers. The V10 has been a popular mixer in techno clubs and that kind of place, where the standard DJM-A9, wonderful though it is, oh, these are heavy things, doesn't really cut it. But also, if you're a home user, then the V10 doesn't really cut it, because the V10's huge. This is about 30% smaller than the V10. It's a lot cheaper, and yet it's got the same lineage. It's got the same background, the same design ideas, and ultimately it's for mixing the same kind of music. It's techno. So we're going to have a look in this review at exactly what this does, what it doesn't do, what's different to the V10. We're going to take a look at what you can plug into it, how DJs tend to set it up. We're going to take a listen to the effects they've changed. There's a lot that's changed compared to the V10 that came before it. And by the end of it, if you're looking at this thinking, that might be for me, you're going to be pretty sure. Hi, I'm Phil Morse. I'm from Digital DJ Tips, where we teach DJing, review DJ gear, and keep you up to date with the latest DJ industry news. And this is an exciting one, so let's get started. So the really obvious things about this mixer, it's got 3 channels, not 4 channels, not 2 channels or 6 like the V10, but 3. I think this is quite a good idea, because most DJs will mix with 2 sources and then probably a 3rd source. And so this is a nice sweet spot that increasingly you're seeing manufacturers doing. It's also got no crossfader, have you noticed? It's got these really long throw faders. Now actually, on the DJM-V10, there was an option to get a version called the LF that had exactly this setup here. So I can only presume that because there's only one version of this is just the V5, not the V5 LF, they figured out that there's no real demand for the crossfader on this kind of mixer for this kind of DJing, and so they've just left it off. They've gone with the one that's sold most, I would imagine, from the V10. There's a lot of things on this mixer that give me the impression that they've learned from the V10, and they've learned what's really important about it. It's one of the things that comes over from it. It doesn't seem to be trying to be quite as much everything to everyone as the V10 was, and I think that's a good thing. So we've got these long throw, very nice 60mm up faders for the 3 channels. By the way, this brings a question to mind. If you're using 2 sources, which channel do you use as the 3rd one? Channel 3 or channel 1? Or do you have channels 1 and 3 for these 2 and you have this one for your 3rd source? I don't know. I've gone for channels 1 and 2 for the left and right hand decks here, but I'm not sold on that. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you would do with 2 channels as your main 2 sources on a 3-channel mixer. Right, okay, so we've got no crossfader down here. Now, you will have noticed if you've seen the V10 that the beat effects, which are part and parcel of most standard club mixes nowadays, and which were also on that mixer, on the right-hand side have gone completely. They're just not here. I think that, again, shows the thoughtfulness of the designers, because I don't suspect that they were used that much on the V10 by the club DJs that were using it for this style of DJing. I might be wrong there, but I think if you're going to take something off, that would make sense to make this different again from standard club mixes, because the way the effects are set up on this is quite unique. And although it isn't all encompassing, there aren't loads and loads and loads of different ways of applying effects here. What they have got is versatile, and again, it's been very thought through. We're going to talk about how there's almost a combi effect here of echo and reverb. We're going to talk about how they've got a very clever way of making the effects that rely on the beat being in time with them, so echoes and so on, work differently to those that don't, like reverb and so on. So this is interesting, and this is showing a bit of thoughtfulness as well. Now, there's a lot of things that have come across from the V10 that do make sense and that have come here. So you've got your 4-band EQs with the 2 mid-bands, which does, again, make sense if you're sculpting sound. If you're removing individual frequencies, obviously the more frequencies you can target, the better. It's got the compressors. Compressors are such a wonderful thing to have on a DJ mixer. They were one of my favorite parts of the original that this was based on, again, the V10. And the reason for that is that having compression across each of your channels means that you can really get the sounds to meld together. Now, at the top here, we've now got a far simpler way of routing everything from the back. We'll talk through the back in a minute. So you've only got here line, phono, and computer. So you haven't got all those external effects switchings that you had on the previous one. And again, I think that's a good idea. I think that was probably overkill for most people. This gives you the flexibility without some of that expense or some of that complication as well. Now, moving down the mixer, we've got filters. I'll talk about how these work in a minute, but we've also got sends to the effects here. Again, this is from the V10, but if you haven't seen this kind of mixer before, you're going to wonder how this works. We'll demo it in a second and I'll show you how this works. Unlike the V10, we've only got one microphone input, but it has got the high and low there and the talk over and the push to talk. The filter here, which is one filter for all the channels, has got something new. I'm going to talk to you about what this XPF means and demonstrate it to you in a minute. That's not on the V10 at all. Now we've got this new little screen here, which is not on the V10 because the V10 has got its own big screen over here. This one has just got a very small amount of information on it compared to the V10, a little bit too little, I would say. But that said, this works quite nicely with the effects that they've put with it here, and I'll demo those again to you in a second. This new time knob is really interesting. You'll get a demo of that, and these all are designed to help you control the effects, including this master mix level, which doesn't quite match, does it? But I do think it's quite a nice idea what they've done here, and I'll explain to you what it is and why this used to be a knob on the previous one and why that is not a knob anymore, why it is in fact now a fader. And so over here we've got the channel fader. So this is the fader curve. So this is where the fader will take a while to get up to decent volume, where it's just completely smooth, or a new one called soft, which subtly attenuates the high frequencies as you bring a fader down to help with mixing. Nice. And then we've got our booth output. We've got our headphones with our headphone link queue, so you can go across to your queuing directly from your sources if you're using Pro DJ Link around the back, which is the Ethernet connector that you can see plugged in there. So this was on the old one and it's on the previous A9 and the DJM Nexus mixes and so on. And then we've also got Sonic Link here. Again, this is their new technology, which has only been on the XDJ-AZ that I've got over here in the background. That was the first thing to feature their very low latency headphone technology. No need for a wire, but no like Bluetooth delay or anything. It's not Bluetooth. And this has got it on as well here. You touch this button here to pair it with your headphones. And also around the front of it, I'm not going to demo it because I can't, they've got like an NFC style version where you can tap your headphones on it and it'll just link without you having to press buttons or anything. But unfortunately, it's not till Q1 2027 that they're going to release a pair of headphones that will use that. So again, I can't demo that for you. Like the V10, it's got the multi-IO here that lets you plug in DJ Rec, which is their app for your phone, which will let you record directly. Also, you can plug into the iPad version of the RMX 1000. You can also plug the RMX Ignite in here with the USB-C, and around the back of the unit, you have the analog for plugging in any effects unit or anything else you want to plug in with individual send and returns from the channel. So again, this is like the V10. Let's have a little look around the back then and see what's here. So we've got right over here, it's now a USB-C underneath my fingers there, which lets you plug into your computer if you want to use Serato. Also, it works with Rekordbox, of course. We've got our one microphone input there. You can see this is the Ethernet, this is the Pro DJ Link. I'm plugged into the TRS balanced booth outputs. They're my blue jacks there, but you've also got the XLR for your master output there, and you've got a record out, which is the RCAs there. And then we've got the channel inputs. 1, 2 and 3 are all the same, phono and line for all three of those, switchable up here. So you can have record decks plugged in and CDJs plugged in permanently and other sources and just use the switching up here to go between them. So I just pointed out the inputs and outputs, unbalanced jacks there. And then we have the power and the on off button there, and these little poles are for connecting your earth connectors from turntables that use them, effectively Technics and a few other brands use those. So a lot simpler around the back than the V10. A few other things that are missing from the V10, you haven't got the 3-band isolator, which was lovely on the V10. That's something that has gone to make it narrower and cheaper. As I said earlier, you haven't got the beat effects, which means you lose the frequencies, the low, mid and high frequencies that you could switch between on those beat effects. The V10 let you send and route to 2 external send returns for effects units, which are not on here at all. And there's a second microphone, as I said, which is now missing. Also a second set of headphones that's now missing. So look, those things were nice to have. So those things were additions that made everyone think, wow, what a mixer. But certainly not essentials for this style of mixing. They've been left off of this one. Okay, it's demo time. Let's have a look at the filters first. The way this works is that you switch the filter you want on here, and then you turn this from left to right to bring the filter in. All the way to the left is off. Did you notice what was different about that filter? I'll demonstrate the other two, then I'll come back to it. Have a think. So this is a normal low pass filter. And here's the high pass. Back to the X pass filter. So if you're listening on a phone, then you're completely lost now. It will sound just like a high pass filter. But if you were listening on decent speakers or headphones, you'll hear that while that took away the high frequencies increasingly, or rather it filtered the high frequencies increasingly, it left the bass in. So in other words, it was taking the mids out and just leaving the highest highs as you added it more and more, but leaving the bass there, which of course would leave the power in a room. So a nice kind of halfway house between the low pass and the high pass. I think they call it the cross pass filter. I can't remember. Anyway, it's called XPF there on the decal. All right, so the filters then, you only get one filter and it applies per channel. So the idea here is that you can apply varying amounts of the filter to 2 or more sources at the same time. Again, that's the style of mixer we're looking at here. And you get resonance there so that you can dial in the musicality of your chosen filter. So the effects work in a similar way in that you've got the effects sends and returns here. This is the send, this is the return. This sends the channel to the effect and this returns it to the master mix. So think of this as a overall volume control for the effects. If that's turned down, it doesn't matter what you set here, you're not going to hear anything. If that's turned to the unity at the middle there, where that's, well, just near the top where that thick line is, you're going to get the standard amount of effects thrown back and you've got a little bit of leeway there to play with. So if I leave that there, this is going to then give me the effect for each individual channel. We'll listen on this channel here, and I'm going to go through them one by one. So we've got short delay, reverb, shimmer, tape echo, ping pong, and echo verb. These three are a little bit different. That's why they're in this panel here, and that's why the lines tie them to this BPM here, which of course is the same BPM that we've got going on over here. All right then, short delay. You can hear that short delay going on there. This is going to give me the amount. It's delaying lots and lots of times there, or just 1 or 2. This is like a filter. Just a subtle way of taking out some of the high or low frequencies from the delay. And time gives me a sweep through the short to very short times on this delay. Okay, then moving on to reverb. Here I've got the overall reverb time on the top time button knob. I've got the room size here from small room to hall. And again, here is kind of like, they call it brightness, but to me it sounds like a filter. It's got a click in the middle. Now shimmer is a kind of sparkly reverb sound. It sounds like this. Exactly the same controls as for the reverb, so you've got your reverb time, your room size, and your brightness for that one as well. Right, we're going to now stop the music playing for good reason, because I'd like you to hear this. Look here for a clue as to what's going on the screen. It says time knob click. So you heard a click, didn't you? This is quite clever. This is clicking in on this knob here, literally a click. So each of these now half. I can feel an indent there. there's an indent on 3/4, there's an indent on 1/4. If I go to one of the effects that's outside this area, that's smooth again. Alchemy, eh? The idea here is that these effects really need you to tie them to half a beat, an eighth of a beat, a 16th, 3/4, one, you know, whatever. So this is turning this knob into something different when I dial in one of these. So tape echo, quarter tape echo, half tape echo, 3/4 tape echo, and so on. Let's have a listen to that one. This is feedback, in other words, how many times it echoes. And again, the brightness is on the parameter there. So ping pong's interesting. Ping pong is those echoes that kind of go from left to right. It's in your speakers if you've got speakers set up. As I have here, it's very obvious. If you're playing through a mono sound system, no one will hear any different. But if you are listening in stereo, this has got an interesting feature on it. So ping pong echo then, sounds like an echo, but left to right, spatial stuff going on as well. Okay, so far so good. We've got our time, we've got a number of times it ping pongs, but this one here is a bit different. If you're listening in stereo, have a close listen. It's altering the balance between the left and right sounds. In other words, the intensity of the ping ponging, which I've never seen before. Quite like that. And then finally here we've got echo verb. Now this is an interesting one because there are no beat effects here, and because there's no scope to really layer the effects like you can on the V10, this one lets you layer echo and reverb and still have control over it using the time here, the quarter, half, and so on. Which again, it's just a nice way of giving you kind of most of something you could get by getting really deep into it on the other mixer on a more simple control. Notice this is mainly reverb, not much echo. And this is mainly delay, not much reverb, right? And then you've got your feedback in the middle again. I demoed you the effects because I wanted you to hear how nice the mixer sounds. It sounds just as good as the V10 and as good as the A9 as well. It's got a clinical sound, but it's also nice and warm, and it does a good job of blending things together. It's just a nice sounding mixer, right? You'd expect that at the price. So what do we think? As I said at the top, I think it hits a sweet spot. I think this is less scary for a lot of people than the V10 would be, and it's got a lot of the things that people probably won't use on the V10 taken away. The things they've taken away might be something that is a no-brainer for you and that you must have. So in that case, hey, it's not going to be for you. But I think they've done a good job here of deciding what's important. And in their own style, they've added a few things that you don't get on earlier models of this. For instance, the Sonic Link headphones and this really rather incredible little knob. I mean, the engineering in that is quite something, even though it does make a bit of a click when you turn it on and off. That takes a second to figure out what's going on. They are going to be expecting you to plug in your own effects here, I would imagine. That's why it's still got the send and return, and it's still got the ability to plug in something digital at the top here, namely, of course, the new Ignite unit, which is designed to plug in with just one USB-C to mixers like this. So you can still assemble a pretty creative setup using this little device. So much less scary than the V10. If the V10 seemed a little bit too much to you, you're going to find this, everything about it, including the inputs and outputs, have just been made a little bit more sane. Funnily enough, it feels more spacious. The V10 really did feel like a flight deck and everything felt squashed in. It feels like there's a little bit more room to space things out here. I really, really love the compressors. I'm glad they brought those across. I'm glad they didn't lose those. The isolator is a bit of a shame, I think, to lose. I didn't mind losing the beat effects at all. Incidentally, there is an isolator, a 3-band isolator on this. So if you were to pair this, if money was no object for your home studio and you were to pair this with this, you're going to get an awesome set of controls there, and you're going to get those isolators back as well. It feels like a more confident design. It feels a little bit more purist. It feels like they haven't just tried to throw everything on it and they've left in the important stuff. And so I think that overall, the only thing that people might look at and think, I'm not sure about that, might just be this. Just because I don't think it looks very nice. I think that the fader top there looks like it's kind of, they put the wrong one on. It could just be me. It could be like it's more important to keep this completely separate in people's minds to the 3 up faders here. But the idea of having your master mix on a level, I think is probably better than a knob. So hey, I'm clutching at straws here for stuff that I didn't like about it, because I think it's a very nice mixer for the people who are going to find this kind of DJ and this kind of mixer and this style appealing, but you need something smaller to use at home. We only got this mixer just like literally a few days ago, and we've been spending the time since then recording you this video. We're going to use it long term here in the studio, and so if you've got any questions about it, if you've used it for longer than we have, you're watching this video in the future and you spotted something we haven't, please let us know. They're always changing stuff, of course, firmware gets changed, and so we'd love to hear your experiences of it, and of course we'll report back to you on it when we've had longer to play with it. But for now, this is our first look, demo and talk through of the DJM-V5, the latest mixer for technical DJs from AlphaTheta. This has been Phil Morse here in the Digital DJ Tips studio saying, get good, get out there, make the moments. And if you want to learn how to use DJ gear like this properly, come and have a look at our courses over at the school at digitaldjtips.com.